Ethan Ward was one of the richest men in the city, known for his empire of hotels and luxury brands. His mansion was filled with gold decor, expensive art, and staff who moved quietly in fear of his temper. Among them was Maria, a middle-aged maid who had worked there for 6 months. She was quiet, respectful, and never caused trouble. But one morning, Ethan walked into his kitchen and saw Maria standing near the fridge, her hand frozen on the handle. She gasped and stepped back when she saw him, eyes wide with fear. "What are you doing?" he asked coldly, his voice echoing through the marble hall. Maria stammered, I was just checking," but before she could finish, Ethan cut her off. "Checking the fridge? Are you stealing my food now?" His words were sharp as knives. The other maids froze, too afraid to speak up. Maria lowered her head, tears already glistening in her eyes. "No, sir, I wasn't stealing," she whispered. But Ethan's pride was wounded. He'd built his life on discipline and control. Anyone crossing boundaries triggered him instantly. "Pack your things," he said without emotion. "You're fired. I don't tolerate thieves." Maria pleaded softly, "Please, sir, it's not what you think." "My son." "I don't want excuses," Ethan interrupted. His assistant came forward, guiding the trembling woman out of the kitchen. Ethan felt justified. He had no patience for dishonesty. Yet, as he sat down for breakfast, something in her eyes lingered in his mind. A kind of quiet desperation, not guilt. But he shook it off. To him, the world was black and white, loyalty or betrayal. Compassion had no place in business or life. Hours later, Ethan's head butler, James, hesitated at his office door. "Sir, may I speak?" Ethan didn't look up from his laptop. "Make it quick. It's about Maria," James said. "She didn't steal anything. I checked the fridge cameras." Ethan raised a brow. "And she wasn't taking food, sir. She was checking if there was milk left." "Milk?" Ethan asked, confused. James nodded. "Her son, he's sick. She said he hasn't eaten properly for days. She was hoping to take some expired milk, something we'd throw away anyway." Ethan froze. The words hit him harder than expected. He leaned back, the air in the room suddenly heavy. "Why didn't she say that?" he muttered. James sighed. "She tried, sir. But you didn't let her." The silence that followed was suffocating. Ethan looked toward the grand window overlooking the city. For the first time, the view didn't feel empowering, it felt distant, meaningless. He had everything, yet he couldn't recall the last time he'd helped someone without expecting anything in return. He thought of Maria's trembling hands, her eyes pleading for understanding. Guilt began to claw at his chest. Ethan couldn't focus on work. The image of Maria lingered. He remembered how she always greeted him with a humble smile, even when ignored. He asked his driver to find her. After several hours, the driver returned, holding a small piece of paper with an address scribbled on it. "She lives here, sir." "It's not a good area." Ethan hesitated, then ordered, "Take me there." As his luxury car drove through the narrow, broken streets, Ethan's stomach tightened. The air smelled of poverty and struggle, worlds apart from his marble halls. When he reached the small apartment, he saw a flickering light through a cracked window. He knocked gently, and a frail voice replied, "Who is it?" "It's Mr. Ward," he said quietly. The door opened slowly, revealing Maria in worn clothes, her eyes widening in shock. "Sir," she whispered, clutching her chest. Behind her, on a small bed, lay a little boy coughing weakly under thin blankets. The apartment had no heat, no proper furniture. Ethan looked around, guilt flooding him. Completely. "You shouldn't be here," Maria said softly, embarrassed. "I know you came to make sure I didn't steal anything." Ethan stepped closer, shaking his head. "No, Maria, I came to apologize." The words surprised even him. She blinked, unsure how to respond. "I shouldn't have fired you without listening," he said, voice breaking slightly. Maria's eyes welled up. "It's all right, sir. You did what you thought was right." Ethan looked at the boy. "Your son?" She nodded. "He's been sick. I just wanted some milk. I wasn't going to take it without permission, I swear." Ethan swallowed hard, guilt making it hard to breathe. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he asked. "Because, sir," she whispered, "people like me don't get heard." Those 6 words shattered him. People like me don't get heard. Ethan stood silently, realizing how many people he'd silenced in his life. He knelt beside the boy, brushing a hand through the child's thin hair. "What's his name?" "Luis," Maria said. "He's 7. Ethan looked at her. "Can I help?" Maria shook her head quickly. "You've already done enough, sir." But Ethan didn't listen. He took out his phone and called his private doctor, insisting they come immediately. Within hours, the boy was taken to a hospital. Maria wept silently as Ethan promised to cover all expenses. For the first time in years, Ethan visited a hospital, not for business but for compassion. Watching Maria hold her son's hand reminded him of his own mother, who had struggled to raise him before he became rich. He realized how far he'd drifted from those humble roots. The next day, he returned to the hospital with a box of groceries, toys, and warm blankets. Maria tried to refuse, but he said firmly, "This isn't charity. It's my apology." As days passed, Ethan visited often. He learned about Maria's life, how her husband had died in an accident, how she worked multiple jobs to feed her son. Each story humbled him further. When Luis finally recovered, Ethan offered Maria her job back, with double the pay. But she hesitated. "Sir, people will talk," she said. Ethan smiled gently. "Let them. They should know kindness isn't weakness." Maria finally nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. Ethan didn't stop there. He created a fund to support employees' families in crisis, ensuring no one under his roof would ever go hungry again. The staff who once feared him now looked at him with respect, not for his money but for his humanity. Maria became more than just a maid, she became a reminder of empathy, resilience, and grace. Months later, during Christmas, Ethan organized a grand dinner for all his staff. As he watched Maria and Luis laugh under the glittering lights, he realized the mansion finally felt like a home. He raised his glass and said, "Sometimes we build walls of gold, only to find they keep out the warmth we truly need." The room fell silent, then filled with applause. Maria smiled from across the table, her eyes shining with gratitude. For the first time, Ethan felt something he hadn't in years: peace. The guilt that once haunted him was replaced with purpose. He had learned that true wealth wasn't measured in millions, but in moments of compassion. Later that night, Ethan stood by the same fridge where everything had begun. He opened it, took out a bottle of milk, and smiled softly. "All this over a little milk," he whispered. But he knew it wasn't about milk, it was about listening, understanding, and seeing humanity in others. Tears welled in his eyes as he realized, sometimes, it takes losing kindness to find your heart again.